So, this is my first time uploading a video on YouTube, and I must say I am buzzing. um, it is my hope and my deepest wish that people looking for this video and seeking what I have to share will find it, and it will find them and give them encouragement and courage to seek out what they have always known to be truth. So, first things first, a disclaimer: I am not a spiritual teacher, nor am I qualified in whatever capacity to give advice to anyone on this platform. What I have are my own life experiences and my own personal ideas and opinions that I have arrived at through doing my own research. I take the business of my eternal life serious, and at this point I advise that everyone else should, and you should take this thing serious, guys. And so I have reached I've reached here through doing my own research and listening to tons of spiritual teachers over the past years. So everything I share in these videos is simply for those that are looking for this information, and if this information is looking for them. So as I have already said, that I'm not a spiritual teacher, nor do I ever want to be, for reasons not to myself. So I like calling myself a life coach just because I think it has a nice ring to it. I call myself a life coach, nothing more, nothing less. So after observing how the world and people in it behave, I now look at life from a completely different point of view. To me, life is no longer black or white, right or wrong, good or evil. I have learned to trust that there will always be shades of grey, and loads of them for that matter. And I figured that the key is to always be impartial. To always be impartial as much as possible. And why do I say this? The reason is because being impartial allows you the luxury to rise above any situations and analyze it from a bird's eye view, from the top of a mountain. So when you remove yourself from the situation and now look at it from the inside, from the outside looking in, then you sort of like have a much more broader view of the situation than when you're just giving or passing judgment from one angle. So more times than ever, I now find myself arguing for both sides, because every scenario is not always as it seems. This is why, if you have noticed, we're always shown such instances in movies where the twist is always supposedly the good guy has always been the bad guy, or vice versa, where the bad guy is actually the good guy, or something of that nature, just to sort of like elaborate my point. So to be able to judge a situation from an objective standpoint is, of course, not possible. Well, the reason why I say that is due to the nature of our reality. We will always be forced, or will always look at any situation and judge it subjectively, because the human mind will only perceive what it is ready to accept and what is common to it, so that it can be able to connect the dots and come up with a pattern where it will normally draw conclusions and pass judgment. So these connections will basically be past emotions and beliefs and what's so on and so forth. And how that situation makes them feel in relation to what they have felt before is how they would judge the situation. So if they associate that situation with an experience that has made you feel a negative emotion, then good luck to anyone else that's trying to convince you otherwise. But if, say, you associate that if you associate that situation with a past emotion that at that time was towards a desired, towards, say, a wanted experience, or that you enjoyed that experience, then it'll be easier to convince you, or you will judge that situation favorably. So therefore you can see that all judgments that we as people make will always or will never be objective, because they will have to pass through our individual filters of unknown past emotions that are tucked away in our unknown mind, or what we call the subconscious. So these are emotions we might not even know we have. So that in itself makes us all lacking to pass what we call objective judgment. So there's no such thing as objective truth or an objective judgment, as long as we are here on earth. So what I want to share in this first video is the concept I'm sure you all have heard before. As above, so below. As below, so above. So before I start talking about this concept, it's important that I make myself clear of my standpoint, or where I stand with regards to certain topics or certain beliefs, because I think it's important that you all know what you're getting yourselves into. So first of all, I'm a believer in the creator of all. I believe that a power exists, and it is evident in all the patterns of the world. And that is, according to me and my own understanding, is undeniable, period. If you don't share the same view, then I'm afraid everything I have to say from this point onwards won't make sense to you. So you might as well excuse yourself. However, secondly, the creator that I believe in is not the commercial version that has been packaged and presented to us by a group of people that have shown no interest whatsoever in seeing the world transform for the better, but only for the interests that serve them and keep them powerful and untouchable from the rest of us common people. So I do not believe in that God, or that version of their God, or what they say is God. I do not believe that a God is a white-bearded man who is in the clouds getting angry at me each time I don't like a post that says, if you believe in God, like this post. I will say this again. I think it's time we all put the business of eternal life in our own hands and start digging and asking those questions that we were prohibited to ask time and time again. We were shut down or flat out refused the opportunity to ask. Because how can you surrender and How can you surrender your eternal life to a fellow human being and have them decide what is right and what is wrong? And in this day and age, this is what we call the age of information. I believe that ignorance will always and is always a choice at this point. So the moment I started asking questions, let's just say, here we are. So there you have it. Fear is the most common emotion, is the most common, it's the most powerful emotion, and it has been used as a weapon that has made us slaves, and that has made slaves of us all. It is so powerful. We start to behave worse than sheep. I heard this from a certain guy I was watching, that we are worse than sheep because we not only follow without asking questions, but we are our own guards, so that we will tell on ourselves if someone else is out of line. We literally go to that extent to call them out that they're not being a good sheep. And I think that's just sad. So now that's being said, if you're still watching, I say let's get into it, shall we? So as I said, I'm certain that most of you have heard the concept as above, so below, as below, so above at some point. So the easiest way to explain this concept without muddying the water is, whatever happens in the physical or material world you see and experience is only a byproduct of what is already happening in your mental world or in your mind up here. So without going into the complexities of it all, I will just divert the lesson a little bit to give a backstory of where all this is coming from. I will not go into the specifics of it all in this video. However, I will just give enough information so that you're able to understand and are able to apply whatever you get from this video to your everyday life, to solve some simple problems that you might be going through, or better yet, help someone out, someone in need, because you never know, the very thing that you take for granted might be a priceless, or that very information that you think is common, it might be priceless to someone else, because trust me, the world that you experience, the world that you live in, it's only you that are experiencing that. Everyone sees the world in a very different way. So that saying goes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So pay attention, because this might actually help someone. After all, that's the point of the videos that I'll be making, is just simply to help someone out there who is actually looking for this information, because you never know who might be looking for it. What you have to know is the world as we know it is not entirely physical. If you're watching this video, you must at least know the following. First is, everything on this planet is conscious. And when I say everything on this planet is conscious, I mean everything on this planet is aware and has consciousness. And I mean everything. From the stones, to the dead leaves, to the trees, to the soil, to the air, everything. Even the planet Earth itself. Everything is very aware. What differs, or what is different, is just the level or the type of consciousness that these different objects or different lives hold. So because I know the type of questions that people ask will be like, oh, so does a tree feel pain or does a stone feel pain? All I can say is I don't know, because I've never been a stone before. But what I know is everything is happening in the mind of what we all call, or what we commonly call God. Other people call it source or the all. And for that reason, everything we see is a part of the all and has the very same essence that make you aware of who and what you are. Because you cannot take anything or subtract anything from the all. That's why we call it the all, the source of everything. So it encompasses everything. So everything in it is very aware. So another example for you maybe to understand what this all is let's say, for instance, you take a droplet of water from, say, an ocean or any body of water. That droplet will have the same exact composition of the body of water that you took it from. So just because it's not separate doesn't make it any different from the source. So that's the same concept, basically, and I hope that makes sense. So this power or this source or the all manifests in so many ways and on so many levels, or what we call dimensions. But at this point, I would say that is really irrelevant to talk about in this video, because that's not what I want to I want to discuss or want to share. Not really, no. Not at this point. However, this will now take us to the second point I want to make, that we are not the only beings in the universe. I'm sure you know by now. The government are trying basically to make people to sort of like slowly introduce all these alien phenomenons and all these videos that are sort of like slowly trying to like sensitize you about aliens and outside world life and all that. You know what I mean. So to some people it's ridiculous, of course, because you always have those people. But hey, that's what life is about. So, but if you're watching this video, I know that you must understand what I mean, and you will not need any convincing, because believe me, I'm not here to convince or to try and convince anyone about anything. You know why you're watching this, and you're here for the confirmation. So that's it. You're not going crazy. It's real. So one other thing that you're also to remember is that you are not your body. So try and remember that you're not your body. Instead, you are a spirit with a human body. So you're not a body with a spirit, but you are a spirit with a human body. So I'll talk about this later if it's relevant. Yeah, so back to the point of this video. You do well also to remember. Sorry, so many things that you have to remember, but I promise this is the last time I'm going to say that. No, I don't. So you do well to remember the important universal law that the universe, or the reality in which we exist, we all are, is mental. Because remember, I say that we are all in the mind of God. So everything is mental. Everything is mind. The all is mind. So what happens to you in your everyday life is not in any way by chance or some random occurrence or for a known reason. No, you are the reason that is actually happening. Believe it or not. you create your own reality, and there's been so many videos about this and already anyway. So you do create that your own reality. The analogy that I normally use to describe reality is, imagine reality as you are driving on a motorway or the highway, where you have so many lanes going in one direction. You have so many lanes going in one direction, and so normally before you start any journey, you will set the direction or the coordinates of where it is that you're going. And obviously you will drive towards that direction of where you're going because you want to end up there. And say while you are already on your way and your plan has come up and you have to make a detour someplace else, normally you will make the decision and change the direction or lanes so that you end up going to that new destination. It's a detour. So the reason you do that is you're changing lane, you're changing direction is to end up where it is that you're going. Otherwise, if you do not, so if you stick to that same path or same lane that you were going initially, you'll not end up where you wanted to go after you change your mind. You will end up somewhere else. You end up somewhere else you don't want to go, basically. Is that correct? Correct. So, in other words, you set intentions. You set an intention to where you want to go, and then you act on it by changing lanes. Yeah? So first is intention, and then second is action. So your intention is what determines where you set your course to go towards, and the rest just follows. The car just follows, because the car cannot change itself before you change it. It will listen to you. It will do what you make it or program it to do. So you change it, like you change the directions, and you turn the car, and the car will go. So basically, if you understand this concept, then you're one step closer to understanding what I'm actually trying to say, what the point of this video is. Because it is impossible, as I say, for the car to change direction without you doing so. Just like it is impossible for the world you see to exist without you. You will need an object to observe it for it to exist. So the physical world that you call your reality is a result of what is going on up here in your mind. And what goes on in the external world will affect you, and it will feed into your mental reality, which will perpetuate whatever state that you prefer to be in, whatever state of your preference. So it's sort of like a loop feeding itself. As above, so below. As below, so above. What happens here affects what you see, and what you see affects what happens here, and so on and so forth. So it's a cycle. So this is why most of the times you see people who are in a vicious circle of unexplained misery, or always constantly attracting the same type of partner. You have noticed those type of people that they always seem to attract the same type of partners in their relationships? Say distant, maybe partner, they leave, and then the next person that they get is literally the same. Yeah, it's because that's what's going up here. It's affecting what they see. What they're seeing is affecting that. So there's no way of them breaking the circle. You're breaking the chain, breaking the circle that people are always talking about. That's what it means. You need to break the circle. But then how do you break the circle? The first thing is to know that all is mind. That's the first step of trying to solve this type of circles. That's the first way you change or you break the circle, is to know that all is mind. Okay, so let's carry on. So and it's no wonder that most people are the reality of it all, of this world that we are currently experiencing, is that no one can really save you from yourself. I know this might sound really, really bad to say that you are on your own. It's not what I mean, that you're on your own, but certain situations only need you to solve them, because it's all happening in your mind. So, okay, another diversion, okay? So yes, you understand the concept better of what I'm trying to say about that you do not need anyone, to help you. You have to do certain things yourself, okay? So, the reality of Earth, or how the Earth and its experiences were designed, are in themselves perfect. What do I mean? Well, if you do not know already, know this. Understand that the purpose of our very existence here on this planet is to have a human experience, and we'll continue that experience until there is nothing more to experience. So, that being said, how better way to know and experience yourself than to have everything going on up here mirrored back to you? That's how you know. So, as above, so below, as within, so without. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. The simple rule applies just like with any mirror. If you do not like what the reflection in the mirror is, or what is reflecting in your mirror, you change the object. You change the object. You don't change the reflection, because it is impossible. It's pointless to try and change the reflection you see in the mirror, for the simple reason that it does not exist. It doesn't exist at all. You can see it, but it simply isn't real. It's an illusion. So, understanding and applying that very simple rule will help you solve so many situations that might appear complicated and somewhat nightmarish from the average person or the average mind, where you're used to solving problems in a certain way, because that's the type of world that we live in. Every problem has to be hammered down. Some problems don't need a hammer to solve. So, when you understand the simple rule that problems or situations that have been created by the mind or on the mental plane, which is your mind, can be solved only in the mind or on the mental plane. When you remember this, when you recall this every time, it will save you a lot of grief and energy trying to solve and complete a puzzle for which you don't have all the pieces. You will continuously ask yourself why it seems like everyone around you is playing chess and you're playing checkers. Well, that is because you are playing checkers and everyone else around you is playing chess. Let's see. Does it seem like the moment you feel like you're getting closer to the goal, somehow the goalpost keeps moving or keeps being shifted? If your answer is yes, well then, you are playing checkers. Yeah. And we will get to the bottom of that. So, if you won't be able to make, or if you won't be able to take anything from this lesson, at least take this advice. If you try to solve your physical problems that you're currently experiencing on the physical plane, and you apply solutions to those problems, the goal will always shift for you. I'm going to say that again. If you try to solve physical problems that you're currently experiencing on the physical plane, and you apply physical solutions to solve those problems, to solve or resolve those problems, the goal will always shift for you. And that will be your life story, unfortunately. You cannot try to change the reflection in the mirror. It's impossible. You cannot try to make a reflection smile first. You'll be standing in front of that mirror for a very, very, very long time, because it's not going to happen. The reflection doesn't exist without you. The world doesn't exist without you. Whatever you see, your reality, it doesn't exist without you. That's the grand scheme of it all. So, mental problems require mental solutions. Problems that have been created in the mind, by the mind, require the mind to solve them. If you think I'm making things up or I'm just exaggerating things, let's refer to one of the greatest books ever written or ever given to us, shall we? And before you start arguing, yes, the Bible is the greatest piece of literature. Just because it has been corrupted and used to serve power-hungry men's deepest, darkest desires doesn't make it completely wrong. What you believe is true about the world, that will be your truth in what you experience. As above, so below. So, Romans 12 verse 2 reads, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." Okay. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. Test and approve what God's will is. Without being pretentious, how could you possibly know what God's will is? How could you possibly test and approve what God's will is if you're just a man? How could you possibly know God's mind? Let's answer that with another scripture, shall we? John 10 verse 34 reads, Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I said, you are gods?" If you go back to that example I made earlier about the droplet of water, that if you are to take the droplet out from its source, from the body of water, it will still have the same composition, the same exact match of the water of the source that you took it out from. It will still maintain the essence of its source. Therefore, if you are created in God's image, if you have the essence of the source of creation, then what does that make you? Ding, 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 ding. Because if you think yourself less If you think yourself less than, then you think less of the creator of creation, whose very essence you now embody, whose very essence you are literally embodying now. I'll let you make your own conclusions. Anyway, back to the question at hand. How could you possibly test and approve the will of God? The will of the Creator, the all. That is, how, if you are just a man, how could you possibly know? Unless perhaps you are something more. The first part of the verse reads, do not conform. To conform simply means to obey, to acquiesce, to observe, to adapt, and most importantly, to follow. So we have actually been advised by scripture not to follow the patterns of the physical world, the patterns of this reality, the patterns of the material world. We should not obey, we should not acquiesce. But instead, we are to change ourselves, because by transforming ourselves or changing ourselves, we also change or transform our external, physical, or material world, according to a cosmic law of as above, so below. Remember, your physical world is simply a mirror, projection of what is going on in your mind. And after your physical world has been fully transformed or changed and manifested to reflect what is in here, in your mind, then you will be able to test and approve if truly that is pleasing, that is pure, and that is perfect to you. Because it is you that is having this experience where in the mind of God. You carry God's essence by virtue of being God's creation, and therefore your will is God's will, because you and God are one. You cannot separate from God. And if for some reason you test and disapprove of your physical world that you have created, that is now the perfect reflection of your now renewed mind, and you find it lacking or displeasing and imperfect, do you then try and change it using physical materials, using hammer? No, that will be pointless, because the physical world is simply a projection, a reflection. It will not work. What you will do is you will go back to the mind and renew it again and again and again towards what you will test and approve as perfect, good, and pleasing to God's will, which is your will. I think that makes sense, and I think that is enough one day. So, dear friends, my dear friends, that is what I wanted to share with you today. And if you have anything you need me to explain and discuss in future, in the future videos, then I say feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if I truly have anything to say about your chosen topic, I will share my insights. But if not, then I will either refer a book or refer you to someone else. The reason I say that is I personally know how it feels to be confused and need some questions answered, but keep going in circles. But be encouraged, or do not be troubled, because I truly believe that an answer will always present itself when you're ready to accept it. Because most of the times the answer is literally staring right back at you. But you just need to change your perspective and actually see and accept what you see. So, and most importantly, a teacher will always present themselves. Any teacher will always present themselves when the student is ready. So I hope this has been very insightful. Please let me know. I was nervous, I know, but I hope I did well. And thank you for staying. Thank you for watching. And I say, have a good evening. Thank you.